In case you're wondering where the Scrabble board is, people are actually using it to play Scrabble, so I can't use that room. Also, the combination of my glasses and the lighting in here makes me look like Waluigi. And now you can't unsee it. In recent years, George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire has gotten really popular because of its TV show, Game of Thrones, which has led to a revitalization of a fantasy genre called Grimdark. So while the idea of brutalist fantasy isn't necessarily new, the market has sort of become glutted with it lately. So when I tell you that the book that we're reviewing today stands out among that genre, it helps to understand the context of what we're talking about. What we're reviewing today is one of the most starkly brutal fantasy series I've ever read, the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, consisting of The Blade Itself, Before They Are Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings, which, oh my god, are those titles amazing. I'll start with a warning. This fantasy series is not for the faint of heart. If Game of Thrones makes you uncomfortable, you should turn back now. This series is unrelentingly brutal to a scale that would make George R.R. Martin sit back and go, damn. To give you an idea of just how bad it gets, the first law of the title is one of two. The first law is do not traffic with demons, do not interact with demons, do not speak, do not summon, do not use demon magic. The second law is do not eat the flesh of men because doing so is addictive, as is the power it grants. Breaking the first law is worse, and the heroes do it. The series brutally deconstructs the idea of the heroic archetype in a world where villainy is sometimes the most effective option for doing good. My favorite character is the crippled torturer, San Danglokta, who is arguably the most moral character of the series, simply because he isn't a hypocrite. The main plot of the series is that a nation known as the Union has just lost their king and is currently in the midst of being invaded by an empire of cannibals. A Gandalf-type wizard gathers up a group of heroes to journey to the end of the world to retrieve the seed of demon magic in order to use it as a weapon against the evil empire. This being the series that it is, none of this goes how you'd expect. The heroes are all awful people who are trying to be heroic in a tough time. The Gandalf is even worse, and overall, the moral complexity of this series puts anything else I've ever read to shame. One of the hallmarks of this series is that the more heroic someone becomes, the more villainous things they have to do in order to save people. Honestly, I'm sure this series is an allegory for something, but I couldn't tell you what. There's also a fundamental difference between the brutality of Game of Thrones and the brutality of the First Law trilogy. In Game of Thrones, the brutality is kind of sugary. The manner in which it's presented is meant to draw in the viewer's attention. We feel satisfied looking at it. The First Law, on the other hand, is intended to trigger revulsion, which is perhaps the bravest thing I've ever seen an author do, and Abercrombie pulls it off brilliantly. The story also has some brilliant bits about how romance and politics would actually interact in a time of crisis, as well as what a world shaped by the intervention of a mostly benevolent god wizard would actually look like. Simply put, I hate this genre of fantasy, and I love this book, which should tell you everything you need to know about it. This takes the bar for Grimdark and just completely blows it out of the water. It's amazing, it's gritty, and it's clever in all the right ways. And honestly, I don't know how many bestseller lists this author has been on, but he really deserves more of them. So if you feel like contributing to that, as always, the Amazon link to the first book is below. Have you read the First Law trilogy or any of its related books? If so, let me know what you thought in the comments, or just make a suggestion of what you think I should review next. Remember to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. And as always, remember to read good fantasy. See everyone on Thursday. Have a good week.